Irrigation Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Now, these are the types of climate that we have in Africa. Number 1, equatorial hot climate. Number 2, the warm temperate climate. Number 3, the tropical continental climate. And number 4, the Mediterranean climate. Look at this, the equatorial hot climate. These type of climates are found within the equatorial region of Africa. We talk about the western part of Africa, that is the coastal area of Nigeria, Ghana, and part of Senegal. Then this type of climate is found in that environment. Then you talk about the warm temperate climate. This type of climate is found within the central and the eastern part of Africa. We talk about tropical continental. Tropical continental is also found within the southern part of Africa and also the northeastern part of Africa. Then the Mediterranean is found along the axis towards the Mediterranean Sea and part of the eastern Africa. So these are the climates, the type of climates that are found in Africa. Now, where we are going to spend much time is the agricultural system in Africa, and we are going to take them, the agricultural types and where they are practiced, what are the contribution, challenges, and importance of this system of agriculture as it is being practiced in Africa. So when we take each type of agricultural system, we look at which part of Africa that system of agriculture is being practiced, what are the factors that encourage, the contribution, and the problem. We take 1, 2, 3, 4 types of agriculture and look at how they are being practiced on the continent of Africa, and what are the challenges and what are the problems. Now we are going to look at number 1, the lumbering in Nigeria. Lumbering in Nigeria. Lumbering in Nigeria. Lumbering in Nigeria. We also have lumbering in Zaire, but we decided to pick Nigeria as a case study. Lumbering in Nigeria. What is lumbering? Lumbering is the legal cutting down of economic trees. The legal cutting down of, or the legal felling down. What we mean, why did we say legal? If you go to the forest without being permitted by government or the government of the land, either state, local, or federal government, and you go there to cut down economic trees, what you are doing is deforestation. It's not lumbering. But when you have the legal permit to exploit our forest resources, what you are doing is what we call lumbering. So lumbering in Nigeria takes place in the coastal parts of Nigeria, like in Sapele, in Warri, in Port Harcourt, and that axis where we have mangrove swamps, forests. These we have enough economic trees that can, guarantee these activities of lumbering in Nigeria. Now let's look at what are the factors that encourage lumbering. What are the factors that encourage lumbering? Number 1, we talk about availability of economic trees, lumberable trees. Availability of lumberable trees is one of the factors that encourage lumbering in Nigeria. Number 2, availability of labor. Availability of labor. I hope you are writing them down. Number 1 is availability of lumberable trees. or economic trees. Economic trees. Number 2, availability of what? Availability of labor. Availability of labor. Number 3, what are the conditions or factors that encourage lumbering in Nigeria? We have accessibility or accessible road. Accessible road to where we have these lumberable trees. Number 4, we have high rainfall. In fact, in Nigeria, along the coastal area of Nigeria, we have enough rainfall that can guarantee the thriving and production of these lumberable trees. Then number 5, we have high demand. High demand. The demand for planks, woods, and even logs is high. Therefore, people go into this business or this farming system. Then, what are the importance of lumbering in Nigeria? Number 1, it creates employment. It generates employment. Number 2, it also leads to the improvement of standard of living. People that are involved in this farming or means of livelihood, it has increased their standard of living. It also leads to the development of infrastructure like access road. Before, the place is not accessible, but because of the availability of what? Of lumberable trees, it forced government to, construct a road to that environment. And number 4, it yields revenue to the government. Those people that come there to cut down these economic trees, they pay money to either local government or state government coffers. So these are the importance of what? Of lumbering activities in Nigeria. Now let's talk about what are the problems. What are the problems of lumbering in Nigeria? Number 1 is lack of or inadequate accessible road. Even though we say that some places are accessible by road, but a lot of places cannot be accessed by road. So it limits the full potentiality of lumbering activities in Nigeria. Number 2 is government policy trying to stop lumbering. Government policy trying to stop lumbering in Nigeria because of over exploitation of these forest resources is one of the problems. Number 3, lumbering is costly. Therefore, they need support either from the government, from the bank. And when this is not available, it also, then we have inadequacy of labor force to transport these logs across the river to the upland before the vehicle, the motor, the lorry can carry it. You need labor force, which they are not readily available. So that is lumbering for you, and we have discussed it. Now we are going to irrigation. We are going to irrigation in Nile Basin. Irrigation in the Nile Basin. Now, how many countries are found around this place? We have Egypt, we have Mali, and Morocco, and the rest. they utilize this river Nile. I've told us that there is a popular saying that without Nile there is no Egypt. So we are looking at irrigation farming in Nile Basin. Irrigation can be defined as the artificial watering of plants. Artificial watering of plant. We have different types of irrigation. We have a shadow irrigation. We have perennial irrigation. We have pump irrigation. We have bucket irrigation. These are methods we use or we adopt in watering the plant. And irrigation is possible, is encouraged where we have acute shortage of rainfall to support the production of crops. So wherever we have shortage, inadequacy of rainfall, the best option for farming activities in that environment is irrigation. So in Egypt, they make use of River Nile to produce or to embark on their agriculture. That is why we are looking at irrigation in the Nile Basin. Then the countries I said, we have Niger, we have Mali, we have Egypt, and also the northern part of Nigeria also benefit from these rivers. Then what are the factors? What are the factors that encourage irrigation? What are the factors that encourage irrigation? Factors that encourage irrigation. Number one, factors that encourage irrigation. Number one, we have presence of water body. Presence of what? Water body. Presence of water body. Number two, we have rich alluvial soil. What I'm doing is what we call talking and chalking. I'm talking to the board, but I'm sorry. What we are saying is that we are looking at factors that encourage irrigation. Number one, presence of water bodies. Since irrigation is the watering, artificial watering of plants, before a farmer can embark on any type of irrigation that we have mentioned, it can be shadow irrigation, it can be bucket irrigation, it can be perennial irrigation, it can be pump irrigation, it can be spring irrigation. Any irrigation method you want to adopt, there must be presence of water. Then number two, there must be rich alluvial soil. So in the Nile Basin, we have presence of water, that is River Nile. Number two, we have rich alluvial soil. Then number three, we have presence of population. Population there is okay for this irrigation to take place. And number four, there must be shortage of rainfall. There must be shortage of what? Of rainfall. So we have presence of water bodies, we have rich alluvial soil, we have population. The population in that environment must be ready to tap the resources, that is the water resources, and also there must be what? Shortage of rainfall. We have listed or mentioned, some of the methods that in Nile Basin they adopt in irrigation. There is what we call shadow irrigation. It's a method of irrigation. There is what we call perennial irrigation. What is perennial? That during rainy season that fall within a short period of time, what they do is that they will dam a river and collect this water. So they do it perennially every year. So during dry season, when they want to embark on, they can discharge that water into their farm. Then we have a shadow irrigation, where you use, it's a traditional means of irrigation, but it's practiced where the modern means of irrigation is not available. The pump system of irrigation, where you use pump to sprinkle. The bucket irrigation, where you use your local bucket, normal bucket, to go and get water from the river and pour it on your farm. So all these are the types of irrigation that is being practiced in Nile Basin. We also have basin irrigation. We also have pump irrigation, as we have said. So these are the type of irrigation. Another system of agriculture practiced in Africa is what we call bush fallowing. Bush fallowing in West Africa. Bush fallowing in West Africa. What we mean by bush fallowing is a system of agriculture where a farmer decides to leave a particular portion of land for a long period of time, so that that land can fallow, decay, the grasses grow, decay, decompose, add to the nutrients, so that the land can regain back the nutrient naturally. Then the farmer will now come back to farm on it again. This type of farming system is archaic, is traditional, but still in Africa they are still, because this type of farming is practiced in olden days, where we do not have access to fertilizer, access to insecticide, herbicide, and other chemicals that can boost the strength of the soil after long time cultivation on that land. So what the farmer does around that time was, after farming maybe 4 to 5 years, he discovered that the land is no longer fertile. He will abandon the farm, leave it to fallow for some years, then come back. The land will naturally regain its strength or nutrient. Then the farmer will decide to come back again and start his farm. So this type of farming system is practiced in West Africa, especially in Nigeria. What are the advantage of this type of farming? Number one is that the land is allowed to fallow naturally. You see, that shows that any crops that is being produced there, that the crops is natural, unlike using chemical fertilizer to produce a crops, and at the end of the day is not too much good for our health. So the advantage of this type of practice is that the land regain the nutrient back naturally. Then another advantage of it is that it will give time and energy to some of the species within the land to come back. When you subject the land to continuous farming year in, year out, there are some species of plant within that environment that may go extinct. But with the practice of bush fallowing, those species may come back on their own naturally. Apart from that, this type of farming is too crude, archaic, and outdated. But still, we practice them in Africa, especially in West Africa. Then, what are the factors that trigger bush fallowing? Number one, the type of crops to be produced is one of the factors that encourage bush fallowing. Then we look at the nature of the land. If we have enough land, you can allow a land to fallow for some time, to any length of time before coming back. If you have enough land, you can cut out a portion, allow that one to fallow, then you go to other place to cultivate. So these are the factors of bush farming. Then let's make progress. We are going to look at we are going to look at plantation agriculture. In East Africa. Plantation agriculture in East Africa. Plantation agriculture in East Africa. Plantation agriculture in East Africa. What do you understand by plantation agriculture? Plantation system of farming or plantation agriculture or plantation farming is a type of farming system that a farmer embark on the cultivation of only one crop. Only one crop. It can be a rubber plantation, it can be a cocoa plantation, it can be a palm plantation, it can even be a tobacco plantation, and so on and so forth. So this type of agriculture is practiced, in West Africa too. It is also practiced in East Africa, like Kenya. They practice this type of agriculture, plantation agriculture. What are the factors that encourage plantation agriculture? Number one, there must be enough land, because it is not maybe 1 to 3, 4 hectares of land. You now say you want to do plantation agriculture. You must have a large expanse of land to undergo plantation agriculture. Then number two, the crops you are embarking on must have a high demand, because when it comes out, it's going to come out in large quantity. For instance, we have rubber plantation, we have cocoa plantation, we have sugarcane, even plantation. We have other crops that you can embark on it on a large scale. So these are the factors that encourage plantation agriculture in Nigeria, in East Africa and other part of even in Nigeria too. We do farm plantation agriculture. Now let's look at the factors that encourage plantation agriculture. What are the factors? Factors that favors plantation agriculture. Number one, there must be enough land. That one is there. Enough land, because plantation agriculture is practiced on a large expanse of land. Number two, there must be modern implements. Plantation agriculture cannot be carried out with a simple implement like cutlass and hoe. So modern implement like tractors, harvesters, and even planters must be available before a farmer embark on what? On plantation and agriculture. Number three, there must be high demand of that crops. If you are going for rubber plantation, for instance, there must be a high demand, or there must be company or an industry situated very close to the farm, so that when the harvest is matured, you will not waste it. Then number four, processing of the farm produce. The process of the farm produce will have to be done within a short period of time to discourage wastage. So these are the factors that encourage plantation agriculture, either in East or in West Africa. Now, what are the problems of plantation agriculture? Number one, the land tenure system, or ownership of land discourage some people from embarking on plantation agriculture. Number two, low patronage of crops that are produced. You know, it can lead to wastage. Number three, lack of government or inadequate incentive from government also can discourage plantation agriculture. Now, finally, we are going to look at hydroelectric power in Africa. With this, although we have other system of agriculture in Africa, but we have to take these few ones. We have pastoral nomadism, that is the rearing of animals, either for commercial or for domestic purpose. We practice that type of or pastoral farming. We practice them practice that type of farming in Africa. But let's take hydroelectric power in Africa. HEP, hydroelectric power. HEP. HEP means hydroelectric power in Africa. When we're discussing about the relief and the rivers, these are the major determinants of, you know, the generation of electricity through hydro. Hydro means water. So any power that is generated as a result of, you know, water, we call it hydroelectric power. And since Africa has enough relief and also rivers, it is believed that this type of electricity should be fully developed on the continent of Africa. But surprisingly, the opposite is the case. We have a good, you know, condition that favors the generation of hydroelectric power in Africa. But because of other factors that impede the development of this hydroelectric power, Africa continent is still backward in terms of power generation today. African continent is still backward in terms of power generation. Right? These are the major dams that hydroelectric power is being generated in Nigeria, in Africa. Number one, we have Kenji Dam on River Niger. This one is done by Nigeria. We have Aswan Dam on River Nile. This one is by the Republic, Egypt Republic. Then we have Akosombo Dam on River Volta. This one by Ghana. Then we have Kariba Dam on River Zambezi by Zambia, and many other dams using the rivers in Africa to generate electricity. But the question one must ask is that with all these dams and rivers that we have in Africa, why is it that in terms of electricity, Africa is the most backward? Now that will now lead us to look at the problems facing hydroelectric power in Africa. The way it is in Nigeria, so it is in the whole of Africa. Number one, the problem can be traced to the nature of the rivers that we have in Africa. Some of the rivers are seasonal. That is, during dry season, the water volume depreciates. And because of that, there is no enough water to pump or to generate hydroelectric power. Then number two, some of these rivers, some of them, they are short-lived. That is, the distance is not far. Then because of that, they cannot generate electricity. Number three, some of these rivers in Africa, they passes through desert. Therefore, they are exposed to excess evaporation, and because of that, it reduces the water volume. Then another factor is the activities of irrigation. You know, irrigation compete with hydroelectric power and is also affect. Then what of the water weeds that occupy major part of African rivers, like water hyacinth? These are factors that militate against the full potential of hydroelectric power. And also we talk about funding and inadequate manpower, skilled indigenous manpower to manage and control some of these hydroelectric power stations that we have in Africa. So these are the problems of hydroelectric power, and the uses or the importance of it cannot also be overemphasized. We talk about, you know, generation of electricity. You know, number 2, we talk about employment. Number 3, it can also increase the standard of living if it is fully utilized. So these are the importance and the problems militating against full utilization of hydroelectric power in Africa.